Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about Google and a current situation that they are going through with the Justice Department. And basically this is something I've already been talking about a little bit here on the channel, right? I've made videos over the last couple years kind of talking about the build up to this, right? Because it's not like this news has been coming from nowhere, right? I mean, Google has been increasingly viewed with a scrutinizing view over the last few years by not only just everyday people, but also by the federal government themselves, you know, because as many people view them, Google is considered by a lot of people to be a monopoly, and it's getting to the point where it's starting to teeter the line on the legal definition of, is Google a monopoly? Well, the Justice Department, they seem to think so, because they have been investigating Google, and as it looks, they're going after Google in many major ways to try and force them to sell off popular products, divest popular services, basically trying to break Google up and make, you know, all of the massive pieces of it that make this big machine work become individual pieces that work as their own individual companies, basically to increase competition in the market, right? So the Justice Department wants Google to put its Chrome browser on the auction block. Justice lawyers late Wednesday night asked the federal judge overseeing a historic antitrust case against Google to order the tech giant to sell its popular Chrome browser, something that could dramatically shake up the world of online search. The agency is also asking that Google stop making third-party payments to phone makers like Apple to ensure that it has the default search position. Google's artificial intelligence technology is also targeted by the Justice Department's proposals. In its filing, the government asks the judge to allow websites to opt out of having data trained by its data-guzzling AI models. And finally, justice attorneys are asking that Google either divest from its Android phones business or have the court supervise its Android division to police any possible instances of Google using Android to kneecap the competition. Quote, "The playing field is not level because of Google's conduct, and Google's quality reflects the ill-gotten gains of an advantage illegally acquired," the Justice Department wrote in a proposed final judgment. So this is pretty massive news, right? So as this has been building up, this whole antitrust case between the Justice Department and Google, we all knew that the government was going to be coming for Google in some way. They were going to be trying to force Google to either spin off a product or sell products under their umbrella in order to make them less of a monopoly, basically breaking them up to, you know, make Google less powerful. Because obviously, you know, Google, they have their hand in everything, right? They got their hand in every cookie jar you can think of. So obviously Chrome, the browser, right? Obviously that is the main browser of the internet. It is the biggest by market share. It's the most iconic, you know. Google is the name of the term of searching something online for a reason, right? When people say, I need to look something up online, they don't go, oh, I'm going to Bing that, you know what I mean? Or I'm going to Yahoo it. They always are like, yeah, I think I'm going to Google that real quick, right? So Google for a long time has had the dominance in the browser market, and that inherently is not a bad thing, right? It wasn't really until they started paying the other companies off to keep that like big share of the market when people started looking a little more sideways. So if you didn't know, say like on your iPhone, right, or on other devices, Google pays these manufacturers and these platforms to keep Google Chrome as like the #1 browser. In some instances, Google Chrome is like pre-installed onto the phone so that like the moment you unbox it and start using it, you automatically have Chrome. It's like the default browser on a lot of phones. And the reason that's the case is because Google shells out a shit ton of money to these other companies to basically pay their way to the top of the search game. Now, obviously, this works out huge for Google because not only do they get all of the data that feeds through the Chrome browser, all the users and all their information through the browser, but also it's a huge part of like their ad scheme too, because you Google something through the Chrome browser, you get Google ads that are just displayed right there for you. Google basically had control over everything that made them revenue from the top down when it came to like Google search. They control the browser, they control the actual domain and the search engine, they control all of the data involved in it, they control all the ads that are displayed on it and all of the money that goes through that. They control the biggest video sharing platform on the internet. Like, their power is pretty goddamn immense when it comes to the online world. So it's not a total surprise that this is where the government went. But not only are they going after Chrome, they're going after their ability to make these third-party payments that have helped them stay on top and helped them kind of flesh out all of the other products that they've built together in tandem, right? So for Google, this could be a pretty massive hit because this would shake up the browser game, right? It would allow, like the competitors like Microsoft Edge, Mozilla Firefox, things like that, to come in and claim more market share because Google won't be able to pay their way to the top anymore, right? Which will give these other browsers an opportunity to shine and come in and take up some more market share. Now, the idea behind capitalism is that the competition is what breeds the success and the innovation. So by having more innovation and more, competition in this industry, there's hopes that it will basically lead to better products down the road for people. But not only are they going after Google's search domination, right? They're going after their artificial intelligence. Now, for virtually any tech company on the planet right now, getting hit in the AI sector, the AI technology sector, that's probably the last place you want to be fucked with right now. Basically, every tech company on the planet is scrambling, not just running, not trying to haul ass, they are scrambling. It is heels to ass trying to see who can win this AI race, who can develop the best AI, who can implement it the best way in their product, who can push this industry forward as it's still exploding and coming onto the scene. Whichever company, can dethrone ChatGPT, for instance, right? That would be a massive and very lucrative business venture for a company to do. And so all these companies, they're pouring money into AI, all kinds of different AI, right? You have people making chatbots, you have companies implementing them into search engines, you have companies that are putting them onto online storefronts, you know what I mean? Like, AI is going to be in fucking everything in the next few years. Every piece of technology, every tech company, everyone's going to be fucking nuts deep in this AI shit, right? And so for Google, if you have the Justice Department already breathing down your fucking neck, hey, this company's a monopoly, we got to come in and break them up, to hear like, oh, wait, they may make us sell off our AI shit, that is probably like, code red, essentially, to Google right now. I'm not going to lie, if I was a higher up at Google, that would probably be one of the biggest concerns that I had right now, because not only are you getting hit in the search, right, where you make a shit ton of your money through the data and the ads and whatnot, but then you're getting hit in your artificial intelligence, which you're going to use to deploy, I would assume, across several different areas and product sectors. That might actually hurt Google significantly, because if they fall behind all these other companies even further in this AI race, it could really be a problem for companies like Google, AI is currently expected to be like the new hot thing that pushes the whole technological world forward. I mean, this shit's being marketed as if cavemen rediscovered fire. You know what I mean? So a huge problem with this AI shit is if the actual ruling goes through and websites are allowed to opt out of their data being used to train Google's AI models, that would be a significant blow, because obviously for Google, they make money through the ads, all this shit, right? That's where people always think about Google making their money. But a massive part of their revenue that people don't even realize is in the value of the data of the users and what they do. Everything you search, everything you upload, everything, that gets indexed online, right, is eventually by Google being sifted through these AI models to train them so they can learn data to use and they can learn how to replicate what you need and whatnot, right? Being basically allowed to turn off access to that and people actually being able to do that on their websites and whatnot, this would significantly hamper Google's ability to train their AI going forward, even if, they get to keep all of their AI investments without any of it being divested or forced away. It's really not a great look for Google. And then on top of that, their phone business being targeted, possibly having to divest their Google Pixel or Google phone lines. Another would be pretty big hit for Google, because this is where they've tried to contend with Apple and Samsung and Microsoft in a more direct hardware focused orientation, right? They're trying to break iPhone's mold in the market share. They're trying to break the Samsung mold in the market share. And obviously, if they're forced to divest this shit away and get rid of it, how can you really do that anymore? So it would be one thing maybe if only one of these things were actually being targeted decided, you know, oh, Google may lose Google Chrome. What are they going to do? Well, they still have all these other things, right? But this is the issue, is that the Justice Department's not just going after one thing. They don't want to just cut off one arm for Google, right? They don't want to just cut off one arm and let everything else keep flowing. They're going for the fucking jugular. And, you know, it's not going to be one of those things where, like, Google literally disappears like an Enron or Toys R Us kind of situation where the fucking company, like, disappears overnight. No one ever hears anything about them ever again, right? It'll just be one of those things where Google goes from being, like, the foremost technological company in many ways to, over several years, eventually kind of seeing the consequences lay out over time, right? As all these other companies gain more market share, as Google's position and their ability to pay off these other companies is weakened. Because this is the way that Google has maintained control. You know, when it comes to these business deals and whatnot, it's almost like keep your enemies close as your friends in a way, right? Where it's like, yeah, you know, they're competing with Meta, they're competing with Apple, all these other companies, but they're going to work with them in specific instances where it's beneficial. And for Apple, you know, it's beneficial to get paid a shit ton of money by Google to basically put their browser on the phone, you know, or something along those lines is basically what I'm saying here. So when these companies work together, you know, in situations like this, if it's really meticulously planned and everything falls into place, it can set up these scenarios where a company like Google just gets this overreaching control over the industry, right? Now, the thing against the Justice Department here is it's kind of hard to actually beat a company like Google in an antitrust settlement, right? For instance, back in the early 2000s, the Justice Department went after Microsoft while it was in the midst of its massive rise, and it was blowing past every other company on the planet. And, you know, they were revolutionizing the personal computer and operating systems and video game consoles and all this shit. They were doing really well too, and the Justice Department tried to come and piss up their leg, but they weren't very successful. The Justice Department's new filing on Wednesday follows a ruling in August that Google has preserved the dominance of its crown jewel search engine by acting as an illegal monopoly. It did this, according to the judge's ruling, by unfairly boxing out search engine rivals to enrich itself. Google achieved this by hammering out expensive deals with browsers and phone makers to ensure it had a default spot as the go-to search browser, putting other search engines at a disadvantage. The decision was heralded as a landmark win for the Justice Department, which has been escalating its pressure on tech companies in recent years. If the court approves the Justice Department's request, it would mark the first time a corporation was forced to break up since 1982, when AT&T had to spin off its local telephone subsidiaries to allow for greater industry competition. In 2001, the Justice Department unsuccessfully attempted to break up Microsoft. So we're at a point where, you know, could Google basically become a company that's a shell of itself? Absolutely, yes, it could, and it's going to depend on what does the government do. How far does this case get pushed? As of right now, it looks like it's going to be pushed pretty far. They're taking this very seriously. It looks like the guys over there at the Justice Department, they're trying to get a career win here, right? Something that has not been done this century at all, right? So for Google, you know, this is a pretty worrying time because it looks like the courts have finally had enough, and they may really be trying to hit Google where it will actually hurt them. So anyway, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, well, talking about Google possibly being broken up and signing out.